Now that it's been a couple weeks since the latest 7.27c patch dropped, we can clearly see a big shift in the metagame towards heroes that haven't been played in a long time. Today, we're going to look at perhaps the most dominant offlaner of the patch, Doom. Before we jump in, here's the question of the day. Which hero is underrated as an offlaner and should see a lot more play? Put your thoughts in the comments section. Darkseer seems particularly good lately. Doom hasn't received any major reworks for a while, and yet he jumped straight from the bottom of the barrel to one of the best heroes in the patch. The only changes were a set of minor tweaks in 7.27b. So what happened? Let's examine those changes in a bit more detail. His attack range was increased from 175 to 200, and his base armor is now up to 0 from -1. He got a few changes to his skills as well. Devour Gold bonus was rescaled to grant more gold in the early levels, but give 1 less health regen at every level, and the backswing of casting Scorched Earth was reduced as well. Moreover, his talent shifted around a little bit as the level 15 increased Doom duration got swapped with his level 10 Scorched Earth damage talent, with their values adjusted respectively. Overall, this isn't much to write home about, so how come the hero is that strong? It comes down to a few indirect buffs. First, the slower pace of the game lets you farm the items necessary to make Doom strong in fights, and that same slower pace means his huge 145-second cooldown on the ultimate is less punishing. In addition, many of Doom's preferred items are now stronger than they used to be, such as drums and blink. Overall, he fits into the state of the game really well. Now that we understand why he is strong, it's time to give you guys a solid game plan to use that strength to win games. First, let's look at his laning stage. Right off the bat, we need to decide on our starting items. Your items should include a Quelling Blade, some armor, and plenty of regen. The most common version would be a Quelling Blade, a Ring of Protection, set of Tangos, a Salve, and a Fairy Fire. If you feel like you need more regen, drop the Fairy Fire and buy another set of Tangos. Some players prefer to drop the Ring of Protection to buy a Circlet, which they will eventually build into a Wraith Band for armor. Once the game starts, make sure not to lose too much health for those bounty runes. You want to skill Devour level 1, and you're generally weak without levels, so avoid unnecessary trades. Maybe ask your position 4 to go to your safe lane to secure those 2 extra runes. As mentioned above, your first skill will almost exclusively be Devour. Use it as soon as you can to eat the enemy's range creep. Once that's done, use creep aggro to take safe farm as often as you can. Your goal is to get last hits and levels, not pressure the carry. One common tactic using creep aggro is to separate the waves. Keep using creep aggro to get the first melee creeps to hit your range creep, then as soon as it's dead, grab aggro again and walk back towards your tower. This will set the equilibrium much closer to your side and allow you to farm safer. Once you hit level 2, you will usually want to skill Scorched Earth. This ability has a long cooldown, and you typically want to use it to either deny the enemy a lot of farm or secure some for yourself. It's going to be rare that you can make kill attempts this early, so don't force them. Keep focusing on your own farm. In some lanes that are very easy, you might want to skill Infernal Blade to put some pressure on the carry. In most lanes though, you'll want to skip Infernal Blade and max Devour, then Scorched Earth. Through the laning stage, keep using Devour to eat range creeps, but if you see a good ability from a creep camp nearby, you can grab that instead. The best one is Frost Shield from the Ogres. If the lane is really hard, you can take your time to search for a skill far from the lane. For items, as always, buy a magic stick when needed for the lane, and then start buying phase boot components. Phase is the choice because it has much needed armor, and the active is great for running targets down. In lanes where you are weak and get harassed a lot, buy chainmail. Otherwise, buy the boots first. After phase is complete, you should get started on Drums of Endurance. We've already detailed why Drums is a strong item in our 7.27c item guide, but in short, it's cheap, efficient, and has a strong active. When you hit level 6, you should dial up the aggression. In virtually every matchup, if you doom the carry, you can kill him. This means you'll either have an easy lane for yourself because the carry leaves, or you can score kills with backup from someone, most commonly your position 4. Take note that your focus is still on farming. Keep your TP ready, but don't go around looking for fights. Just push the tower on the lane whenever you can. After the tier 1 towers are down, the game is typically going to slow down immensely. So after we spent the laning stage focusing on our own farm, we'll spend the next section of the game on farming. No, you're not playing the carry. Yes, this will make sense in a moment. Your job is farming, but not just anywhere. Farm on places of the map that put pressure on the enemy team to deal with you. In most games, this means you'll either play mid or top lane on Radiant and bottom lane on Dire. Focus on farming jungle creeps and use your Scorched Earth to clear creep waves fast to make sure you show as little on the map as you can. A doom that's missing is a doom that everyone will be afraid of. With all that farming, it's only natural that you'll have to spend that gold. After completing your drums, your next item typically will be a Blink Dagger. When you have it, pick up the Centaur Stomp ability with your Devour. In some games, you might want to skip Blink to get your next item faster, which will always be BKB. Your hero's main role is starting fights by blinking or running in first, so a BKB will prevent you from dying to the first stun that hits you in return. Well, actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that, so let's talk about team fights. We already know that you should blink in and stun someone. But who? Mostly, your target will be that annoying hero your team has a hard time dealing with. This may be a support like Phoenix or that Void Spirit that keeps dashing into your backline and killing everyone. Blink them, use the Centaur Stomp and Infernal Blade to stun, followed up by your ultimate. Activate Scorched Earth and then run them down. Once you hit low health, use your insane movement speed to disengage from fights and let your team clean up. Stay in range to be able to blink stun another target if needed. For your skills, and more importantly talents, you have a few options. You will always max out Devour and Scorched Earth before Infernal Blade and take Doom as it's available, but you might want to put a value point in Infernal Blade if you lack stuns against TPs and channeled abilities. At level 10, take Scorched Earth movement speed. The extra few seconds on Doom simply doesn't compare to the amazing movement speed buff that you desperately need to make your hero fast. At 15, however, the choice is less clear. Your options are 120 extra gold from Devour or plus 30 extra DPS on Scorched Earth. Opt for the Devour gold if your team wants to take it to late game so you scale better. Take the Scorched Earth damage if you want to be stronger now and close off the game quickly. Also consider taking the extra damage against heavy illusion heroes like Phantom Lancer. The late game for you is going to be quite similar to the mid game, so we should simply look at the changes in comparison. First, consider your next item. At this point, the most common problem you'll face is your low armor, which is addressed by either Assault Cuirass or Shiva's Guard. Since you don't benefit as much from attack speed, it's better to go Shivas in most games, but if somebody already has it, Assault Cuirass will do just fine. Rarely, you'll want to opt for an Aghanim Scepter instead. Doom Scepter upgrades Infernal Blade to apply a longer stun as well as a break. It's typically bought for the break and as such a counter to heroes like Spectre and Bristleback. Next to items, we also have two talents at 20 and 25. These are quite mediocre, but since you want to keep the Centaur Stomp, take Doom damage at level 20. At 25, Infernal Blade damage is a much better choice as we aren't scaling attack damage with this build. Solid talents, but not really game-changing. However, others might have game-changing things to play around with. Enemies can start building items such as Lincoln Sphere or Lotus Orb to counter you. Pay attention to these items and regularly check the inventories of enemy players. Speaking of enemy players, fighting them is something you might want to do from time to time, but do you have to do anything different? Well, for one, where do fights happen on the map? Since teams will think about closing out the game now, Roshan is the most important objective, so make sure that your team controls his pit. Focus your efforts on pushing out mid and top while adhering to our previous rule to show as little as you can on the map. Keep in mind that the opponents also want to do the same, so make sure you're ready to gank them if they're out of position. It's important to know how to make the fights happen, but it's even more important to know how to win them. As mentioned before, pay attention to Lincolns and Lotus Orb, but also who you doom. There's a good chance your biggest problem is the enemy carry by now, so doom them whenever you can. On the other hand, your carries should deal quite a bit of damage as well, so your stuns are more valuable than ever. Stay alive in fights as long as possible so you can use those stuns many times. Now you have all the knowledge you need. It's time to use it to gain some juicy MMR. Don't forget that the consistency in doing the correct plays is key. So here's a quick build that summarizes our points made in the video. Start with 6 tangos, a salve, a quelling blade, and a ring of protection. Buy phase boots, chainmail first. Build drum after, followed by a blink. Bully the carry at level 6 with your ultimate. Focus on farming, keep TP ready, max Devour, followed by Scorched Earth. Value points in Infernal Blade at level 8 and get Centaur Stomp with the blink. Build BKB after the blink and an armor item after, usually Shiva's Guard. Doom the carry or an important fighting hero such as Phoenix. Initiate fights with blink stun into Doom and use your movement speed to disengage when on low health. With that summary, we've reached the end of the video for today. I hope that you all will find this guide useful, and I encourage everyone to try it out. I'm sure you're gonna do great. If you have any questions about the build, post it in the comments section. Best of luck to you and all of your games, and may you not doom any creeps.